Now, under President Bola Tinubu, Nigeria faces key challenges shaping its present and future. Observers continue to evaluate the state of democracy, noting both progress and concerns about governance and transparency. Insecurity remains a pressing threat, with communities across the country calling for decisive action to curb violence, kidnappings, and banditry. Meanwhile, relations with the United States are under renewed focus as both nations explore cooperation in trade, security, and diplomacy. Recent ambassadorial appointments signal Tinubu's intent to strengthen Nigeria's global presence and deepen partnerships, reflecting a broader effort to position the country strategically on the world stage.
Well, for more on this, we're joined in the studio live by Dr. Fapounda, who is the Director of Research of the Afenifere, a socio-political Yoruba cultural group. He's also a public affairs, policy and governance analyst. Dr. Fapounda, thanks for joining us live on Daybreak on Arise News.
Good morning, viewers.
So many people find the country at a critical crossroad, and some have defined this as a moment of truth. There have been some saying that the narrative points that some people must have sponsored the institution of insecurity for 15 years, for it to have been sustainable for 15 years. Do you think it's time to start naming the sponsors of this heinous act?
Actually, we are not going to the root of our problems at all. I served in Kano State in 1975, 50 years. In BUK, then you see swarms of small boys trying to even eat the food you are eating on the table. Almajiris. Anybody who is alive in that time, no skills, no school, nothing. Between the age of 30 now, 40 and 50, they are the ones carrying the AK47 all about. We are not going to the root of the problem. It's not to celebrate General Musa as a very good person. Competent, no doubt. But rather than call sociologists and call people who really know human behavior, we want to shoot our way through this problem. I'm not convinced that we are on the right track.
What's the right track?
The right track is as I told you now, we have 50-year-olds that I witnessed who have never gone to school. Their father is in Sokoto, they are with Malam in Maiduguri or in Lafia. No parental guardian, nothing. They are just on the streets. Grew up to 40 years of age, grew up to 45 years of age. Are they just going to melt away? They can't just melt away. It's a social problem. It's not a guns problem at all. If you really want to go to the root of the problem, in my own opinion, the leaders of the North have not addressed the issue of how they promote the Almajiri system. Their own children cannot be, my own child cannot be Almajiri. But they are so self-centered and they ignored all the children of the North that are not be going to school all these 50 years or more. What's going to happen? Nobody's talking about it.
Dr. Fapounda, you've really given us something to reflect on. The root of our problems and the fact that we haven't solved our political issues, which will now help us to solve the social issues that you're mentioning. So let me take you back to politics, back in 2022, before the general elections in 2023, when Afenifere endorsed Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party from the Southeast, excuse me, against candidate Bola Tinubu from the Southwest. In fact, the late Pa Ayo Adebanjo seemed to be the arrowhead of that support for Mr. Peter Obi, although we had figures like Chief Ruben Fashoranti, who supported Tinubu. When you reflect on that today, does Afenifere regret that decision to support Mr. Peter Obi? Because he did say that it was in the interest of fairness, equity, and balance for the Nigerian project, and that is important to us living as a country in unity and advancing forward.
My brethren Yorubas, they think and behave as if we are in Oduduwa Republic where Yorubas can be entitled, they can be a Milokan, can be our Lokan. But the Nigerian landscape belongs to everybody now. So, Obasanjo has served 8 years. And so, Professor Vice President has served another 8 years as whatever. If we want to be inclusive and bring the whole country together, it's only the Igbo that have not been president. And Afenifere, my own faction, our own faction, believes in equity and justice. Once you have rigging your way, snatching your way, and getting into position, you are not even prepared. It's clear that our president now is not even prepared to govern from day one. Why are you appointing? In fact, you have to have Ambassadorial list ready before you are sworn in. If you have economic diplomacy, you have to have trained them on what to have asked them to go out to achieve. But it came in just one slogan, fuel subsidy gone. And then we went to sleep. Can you imagine the cost now, the ambassadors now? Do you know each one of them with their wife and children, how much business class ticket we have to pay? Can you imagine how many dollars they have to be given to the extra code? And they have less than 1 year to serve. A terrible waste of the system. If you had an orderly system where, as far as wanted, Obi, nobody can doubt his capacity, nobody can doubt his competence, nobody is perfect as a human being. At that time, he was the candidate for the time. The nation decided to do otherwise, and we are paying the price today, so unfortunately.
Now, you've spoken about ambassadorial appointments, and I want to ask you my next question on that. So do you think Tinubu's ambassadorial picks are based on competence or political rewards?
Well, let's have two categories. The career ambassadors, that's the peak of their career in service. They're supposed to have gone for 4 years term to serve the country properly. But they will not be hurried out. And in the next election, if Tinubu wins, some of them might be retained, but they have to be recalled again. Imagine the waste. So their careers have just been truncated. They have been lying idle for the last 2 years, just rotting away in Abuja. As for the politicians, it's just the good, the bad, and the ugly. I really cannot pick anyone seriously that is of the nature of Christopher Kolade, ambassador of commissioner in London those days. You cannot think of it. But the worst part is that in the next 4 months, it will take 4 months before they even be on post, because the countries have to agree to be ambassador before they will accept. They have to stand by when they are waiting for them to present credentials of their nomination. So the next 4 months is a waste in terms of resources, in terms of time. When you do something in a hurry, rush, you fail and fumble. It's so regrettable that we have this situation.
Yeah, Dr. Akin Fapounda, I think it's time we also reflect on our model of democracy, because now there have been a lot of accusing fingers to President Tinubu on the presidential list. And we look at the Constitution, it gives, in section 171 of the Constitution, it gives him that power to appoint ambassadors, high commissioners, and principal representatives in foreign mission. That's one. But when you look at the model of democracy, fundamentally, it's like it thrives on inclusion. And so that brings us to the democratic process where politicians will have invested their money and all that, regardless of their ethical standard. And now that puts the president in a kind of dilemma for a kind of political patronage. So what would another president or a better president had done in this circumstance, given this controversial situation where he's torn between appointing career diplomats, people of impeccable characters, and also falling into the pitfall of political patronage, given our model of democracy and our style of democratic process?
In all honesty, have on this channel counseled that we need to pause the political system. We are in the wrong direction. We'll keep going. Look, if Tinubu wins 2027 elections, all the decampees now that are decamping now, they are in line again for appointment. Once you fail or you lose election, you lose Senate, you have to be made ambassador. The INEC chairman now will also have to make ambassador. I mean, we are following money show today. We are in the wrong course of recycling these old people that are really tired. What we have now is politics of banditry. You predate, you fight your way, you become a senator, become a governor, and you just have to do all that it takes at all costs. This is not the right way to govern. We need to decentralize the power of the country. The president, we always say, is so powerful. What is the use of the power? He can't sit more than on a bed at a time. He cannot ride more than one jet. What is the big deal about this power that somebody cannot be reasonable? But we are suffering. Look how much money has been spent on kinetics. How much is a bullet, as General Musa said? You fire a bullet, how much does it cost? All the soldiers are in the bush. We are not even talking about education. Nobody is talking about roads. Nobody is talking about artificial intelligence, which the world is embracing now. We are just living on predatory lives of survivor. We need to really pause and spend the next 1 year to discuss the way we are living. But like I said, so are we together? How do we be together? When we do that, then all of us will have a sense of inclusion. And the best minds will volunteer. You don't need to spend 100 million to get a form.
Yes.
You don't need that. We need to reform the system fundamentally and strategically.
You mentioned one of the brilliant minds from the Southwest, Chief Bola Ige, the late Chief Bola Ige, who died in a very, very terrible circumstances. I'm not even sure whether his killers have been found. But let me look at Afenifere again, your organization, whose ideology is based on that of the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, that advocated a philosophy of fairness, justice, and national well-being. So for some time now, it would seem that President Bola Tinubu is emerging or trying to emerge the Yoruba leader in the mode of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Does Afenifere see him in that light?
Well, the Yorubas are very, let me not say sophisticated. Anybody can say whatever he wished. In the minds and hearts of Yoruba people, we know who is selfless, we know who is intellectual, we know who loves himself as he loves the others. It is true that our president now engineered himself. He used all means possible, including Muslim ticket, including splitting Afenifere into two. But Afenifere, we were 11 in the executive of the Afenifere properly. Only 2 defected to Tinubu's side. The 9 of us are still intact in the Adebanjo fashion. It's a fact. So Afenifere is, we believe in welfareism. Freedom for all, life more abundant is the motto of Afenifere, and it stands. When Abanation now, because Tinubu has seized the political space, and can anybody say this? And Awolowo will have produced blueprints in advance of coming. We know what's happened in 1979. UPN states were ready to govern under Awolowo direction. The same thing allowed for democracy too. But this haphazard governance and waking up and doing things, subsidy or no subsidy and all that, it's not Awolowo style. Nigerians should know it. Yorubas also know it too.
So you're essentially saying that President Tinubu was not ready to govern, and is not ready to govern, and is not doing well.
It's not me saying it. We already have 2 years of it. It's not me saying it. The facts are there. We now have evidence, empirical evidence. If I were to remove subsidy, I would have prepared all the palliatives in advance, automatically. How many CNG buses are on the road now? How many CNG buses? The only signature project of President now is the road from Lagos to Calabar, the road from Sokoto to Badagry. But in Western and Yoruba areas, where are the roads? Osun State is down now. The governor is being strangulated. Is that an Awolowo mantra to strangulate your own area too? Osun State is down. It's dying. And Tinubu is watching. It's unfortunate.
Now, based on what you've just said, it has become quite apparent that public trust has been lost along the way. What actions do you think could be taken to regain and rebuild to boost the public trust once again?
The patriots visited President Tinubu last year. He affirmed that he wants to do economics, that politics will come later. He has done economics now. He has passed tax fraud reform. The tax reform, we are going to see a lot of crying when it comes to effect, but let's leave that aside. I still plead for President Tinubu to change gear. We have to look at the politics of Nigeria. He said, economy first, politics later. This next year is for politics. And the blueprint is there. It's just to send a bill to National Assembly to say, authorize for a new constitution to be debated and agreed on. By May, it could be done. By October 1, it could be effective. We should not go into the next election with this predatory system that we have now. Let him even plan to retire. 4 years enough as president of your country now. Must he be Paul Biya of Cameroon? It doesn't have to be. How many months did the Muritala rule the country, and we see the impact everywhere? How many months? Awolowo actually ruled Western region only up to 1959. He ruled from 54 to 59. And we still have the impact up to today. So if we can just bequeath a new polity on Nigeria in the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, all his sins will be wiped away, in my own record.
Okay. Now, as the ambassadorial designates, now we understand that they'll be facing the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, Foreign Relations for their screening, and afterwards they'll be taking their oath of office. So let's just tie down that as they prepare for their tour of duty, bearing in mind that Nigeria's foreign influence dwindled within the last 2 years of not appointing ambassadors, they're creating gaps in our economic diplomacy, citizenship diplomacy, and also shuttle diplomacy. What should be our main diplomatic focus as they prepare for their tour of duty?
In actual fact, I'm not privy to any document that says this is the thrust of Nigerian foreign policy. We know the time of Ike Wachuku when it was economic diplomacy during the Babangida years. We knew the trust of the foreign minister.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking this is that I read the Renewed Hope foreign policy and it was a bit untidy, a bit scattered. So that's why I was asking what should be our main foreign policy thrust as the ambassador prepare for their next tour.
Well, we are aligned to China a little bit. America is fighting back about it. We don't know whether we are non-aligned or aligned. There is no definitive position on Nigeria's trust. Africa used to be central focus of Nigeria policy. We don't know anymore. Foreign Affairs Minister, who is he now? I'm not asking. I know his name, but has he made a major speech? As NIA in Lagos be committed to produce a blueprint on the trust? We are indebted. We are in loans to China. America is now putting us backward. They want to replace Chinese in mining. What have we decided on that as a country? What's our interest? Okay. We have not decided. So, again, in the next 1 month or two, while they are seeking agreement for the postings, there has to be a small panel with Nigerian Institute of International Affairs to articulate a coherent navigation between the West and the East, the Chinese and the American. But it's not clear now at all.
Okay, let me take you up on what you said about the Constitution. You talked about the Patriots and their proposal, which you believe the president should take up or listen to. Are you implying that the current National Assembly Constitution review makes no sense, it's not valid?
They want to amend the Constitution in 83 places. If you have a clause that is used and you are a stone, and you want to patch it up in 80 places, why not just throw it aside and write an elegant constitution? We have a draft already. Nigerian constitution should not be more than 20 pages federal. Relation between the federal and the regions or states. Then each region or state should go and craft its own constitution Nigeria is not one nation, but we are in the same territory, no problem about. Let everyone go and do what it suits them under Nigerian territory. So we need to have a federal draft, we need to have a state or regional draft. The Yorubas are different from Fulanis. The Hausas are different from Fulanis.
Yes.
It's nothing negative at all. We are just different. And even resources is different. North is farming. The south is crude oil. Middle belt is solid minerals. Even to focus on that,
Okay.
it will be different.
So that is Dr. Fapounda. Thank you very much, who is the Director of Research of Afenifere. He's also a Public Affairs Policy and Governance Analyst. Thank you for joining us today on Daybreak. Thank you for your time, sir.
Well, and that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Benga Ashuru. Thank God it's Friday, and goodbye from me.
And I'm Constance Ikoku. Thanks for joining us on Daybreak today.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.